Well, I have to thank Robert Syfert to come on the show here today. Robert, Gary was on our show briefly, and we had a great conversation. I appreciate you giving me some time as well. But if you want to get a hold of Robert and see what he's all about, I can't believe you guys have the domain name. I mean, it's an awesome domain name, realestateinvestor.com. And you have your hands in a lot of stuff, don't you?
Yes, we do. Above and beyond that as well. Thanks for having me on the show first and foremost. It's a pleasure to be here. But yeah, I mean, if it has to do with real estate investors, you shouldn't be going anywhere else but realestateinvestor.com, because we have it, right? No matter what it is, if it's not showing on our website the day you land there, it either will be or is something we have available or have the right team or resource to connect you with. Which is, it's a long story behind that domain name, but I'm happy that we have it.
Yeah,
It serves as well.
That's a great domain name. Well, one of the things that I thought we should talk about, and dive a little bit more in detail, is regarding the implementing some automation into real estate investing. I think, I don't know about everybody else, but you kind of, as entrepreneurs and working for ourselves, we're our own worst bosses, right? I mean, and trying to and you'd be surprised at the amount of time that we spend on things that likely could be automated.
Oh yeah.
So can we spend a little time on there talking about some of the automation that realestateinvestor.com can provide, and some of the other tools that you might suggest and recommend to handle some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, automation is dear to my heart. It saved my marriage. It saved my life. It saved my time with my family. Probably not unlike most people, when I got started in real estate, the allure of starting in real estate for me was freedom, right? Like, I'm going to have so much money coming in. I'm going to have all this time. The opposite is what happened, right? And so I got into real estate and I was burning the candle at both ends. I was making money, but I wasn't actually going on real vacations. I was spending all this time doing all this mundane stuff over and over and over again. And it's like you just said, I was being the worst boss ever because I wasn't taking a step back and looking at, and there's all this technology out there, right? So it was affecting my marriage. It was making my health crappy, bad sleep, like all these just bad, painful things happening that most people don't talk about. But it's the reality. The cool thing is I went on a vacation that I lost cell phone service because we went international. I didn't realize I needed something additional on my plan to cover that. So I had no cell phone. I couldn't connect. I couldn't actually work. So I had to enjoy vacation. From that moment on, I set on a mission to go figure out, I need more of that. How do I do that? And so that opens the door to automation, right? And so what started a few years ago was this journey of there is all this technology out there. And so I brought in some pretty amazing technology people. And what I was doing, and what everyone should do if you're just starting out at minimum, is using something as simple as a Google Calendar, right? And automatically reminding yourself that you should be following up with leads on this day. I would say plan that, block it, have a reminder to tell you to do that. That's the most simplest automation you can have. It just reminds you to do stuff. Now, outside of that, the number one thing that is most powerful to me with automation and what we do at realestateinvestor.com is your follow-up. Like you're literally, as we say, you're one follow-up away. Like, I know a lot of people say you're one deal away. The truth is you're one follow-up away, because a lot of people get into this business and they think, well, if I do some marketing and some leads come in, that person I get on the phone, I got a deal. And that's just not the case, right? It does happen, but it's few and far between. And so the number one thing that takes up all your time, it's continuing to talk to those sellers or buyers until the day that they're actually ready. So you end up, the more leads you have, the more of that you got to do. The number one thing to automate is your follow-up, because you could have text messages, phone calls, pieces of thank you cards, emails, all of that can be 100% automated. Now you can go and plug a bunch of things together to make that happen, or our touch platform literally does all that for you automatically. So then instead of you spending all your time or even hiring a VA to go do all this stuff for you, follow-up being the most busiest thing you will do in real estate, you can just focus on the people that reply back, that
Mhm.
are ready to do a deal, right? And then you're only spending time doing deals or negotiating with someone and finding out what problem they have so that you can solve it. Once I got that figured out, and it took me a while. It took me almost a year to like totally build that for myself and my business. That like literally cut our overhead in half because we got rid of VAs that were doing manual processes. That was the first step in trying to figure it out.
Mhm.
The automation itself made the overhead go away, and it actually tripled our business within a few months of being able to figure that out. So for me, that's like now looking backwards, like, man, if I could just tell everyone day one on how to automate that follow-up part,
Mhm.
changes everything for them. It actually will give them the freedom they're looking for when they got into this thing and not start off in the painful place I was.
Sure. Well, could you talk a little bit about like what do you mean by follow up? Is that when you automate something like that? Is somebody actually? It's just a lead that's popping up on the screen and you're physically calling them, or are you getting in front of them through stealth voicemail or texts or what have you?
Yeah, great question. And in the beginning, obviously, with the Google Calendar I was mentioning, that's you, right? It's going to pop up a reminder to call or text someone. You're going to call or text that person or send them an email, right? Whatever access you have to them and tools you have. Automating that in the right way, the way I suggest, is this is literally, I'm not doing anything. It's almost like having you could hire VAs to do this. You absolutely could. And then they are doing this for you. When you're fully automating it, though, and you're leveraging technology, which lowers the cost tremendously, I am sending every lead text messages from me like I wrote them. As you said, stealth voicemail or ringless voicemail drops that are going in as a message that I recorded, but I didn't actually call them. I'm
Hmm.
sending them emails to their inbox. I'm sending them thank you cards to their physical mail address, whatever that may apply. And I like all four ways of touching, and all of them can be 100% automated. So in the background, I can focus on two things: marketing, so that more people call me and
Hmm.
get into my system. And then the system is what I like to call mining and refining, right? It's just sending out messages every day. I don't care if it's 10 leads, 100 leads, 1,000 leads, 10,000 leads. Someone has to follow up with them. I prefer automation
Hmm.
because the technology can automate all four of those touch points and communicate with those sellers. And then this way, I'm no longer in that middle part where all the work is being done. I'm sitting at the end of that machine. And when they reply back and say, yeah, you know what? I actually would like an offer on my house today. Cool. Can I come out at 2 or 3 tomorrow? Or can I make you an offer over the phone, depending on what your business model is?
Hmm.
I just like the automation to talk to the hundreds and thousands of people. So I'm focusing on the handful that I'm going to do deals with, right? I mean, you look at some of the biggest operations out there. Now I know some that are really massive, but let's say you're doing 100 deals a year. The reality is if you're doing 100 deals a year, you have thousands of leads that you have communication with to get there. Well, I would
Hmm.
rather automate the thousands of conversations so I'm only focused on the 100 or 200 that are going to lead to those 100 deals. And so
Sure.
that's automation to me. You could take that to another level with VAs and personally calling too, which I would argue, but that's all in scaling and size, right? But in the beginning,
Hmm.
just having it done for you automatically by technology is still coming from you. It's your
Hmm.
voice, it's your words, right? But technology could send all that for you so you don't have to do it. Set it once and forget it, and it just happens.
Sure. So, a lot of people that are listening to our show are kind of new starting out, and the tip on the Google Calendar is one thing, but if somebody wanted to dip their toe into some of this automation that you're referring to, where do you think what's the low hanging fruit, the best bang for their buck if they wanted to try to automate some of this themselves?
Yeah, I mean, it's why we created a light version of our product, quite simply because there was no perfect thing without getting into, well, I need
Right.
that tool plus this tool connected together to do that thing,
Hmm.
right? And so that was the challenge in the industry, and we only had a more expensive product that did everything for an investor, including their contracts and everything else. But we over a year ago created a light version to answer that exact problem. Because the closest thing you're going to hear from most people is, well, you got to get something like a call rail, right? Because
Hmm.
you need a tracking phone number, and you can't do it with Google Voice because that's still manual. It can't be integrated, so to speak, in the software world. So you need something. You could get like a Mailchimp, would be, for an example, that'd be one low hanging fruit if
Right.
you have emails, but I would argue that you probably have more phone numbers than you do emails, right? So how do you automate the follow-up? You could go get, so super low level, if you're not even at the level of being able to get into like our light product, which does all of it, you could go get like Slide Broadcast, is the ringless voicemail drop. And I don't know, you can't automate it necessarily, but it starts to help get you some of that done where you could, send a bunch of people the same message at one time. So it's a little bit more automated, but if you can afford, less than $100, or less than your Starbucks coffee a day, you can get our light version and it'll do all four for you automatically. So it's the easiest. That's why we created the light version, because we know everyone, like I said, they're just one follow-up away. So the low hanging fruit is if you just have something that follows up with everyone you're talking to, that's going to start this engine of you being able to scale, right? That's where it all begins. And so that's our light version of our product.
Yeah. So if everybody is, if you're interested in checking this out, again, it's at realestateinvestor.com. And again, we're talking to Robert Syfert with realestateinvestor.com. So, Gary was on the show not too long ago, and we were talking about a lot of this stuff. And I know you guys have put in a lot of thought and experience into this. And I think that's what is the most attractive here is that we're not talking to a bunch of software developers who are trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. You guys have been there, done that. You know the pains from firsthand experience, and you're trying to actually you tried to solve your own problems first, right?
Yep. Yeah, this all is solving my own business problems to allow me to scale, turned into there was a massive need in the industry, and went on a mission 3 years ago to change that and to make it different. To this day, we still have I still have a physical operation that buys and sells properties, for two purposes. One, I love real estate, right? So I'm going to always do real estate. And two, it keeps me to what you said. It helps separate realestateinvestor.com from everywhere else, that we are actively in the business buying and selling property. So I know what's working today. I'm not trying to say, hey, 3 years ago when I was doing real estate and I did a couple deals, here's how I did it, and this is what you should be doing. No, today I'm pivoting based on what's happening. Here's what's working and here's what's not. And we're always going to continue to do that. So I have my business out of Tampa is still operating USA Portfolio Real Estate today. We buy and sell houses. We primarily wholesale at this point, but we rehab some. And this is it. This is the thing that has separated our business and allowed us to scale, where it's made it super easy. All we do is plug in more salespeople, right? And their job is done. All they got to do is close the deals and learn to negotiate.
So, this is one of the interesting I have to say that I'm being a little selfish here, because one of the reasons I was looking forward to this conversation is that, we keep saying that follow-up is the key, and unfortunately, sometimes my follow-up list gets a bit overwhelming. Well, more times than not, it gets a little overwhelming, and I can't get to all of them. But now I'm already starting to realize that I'm likely not automating even that piece to the level I probably should consider.
Yeah, 100%. It's why I mentioned it. It's through and through what you'll hear from me, because the first thing we did in understanding that was I hired VAs. I knew it had to be done. And then that became overwhelming. People get sick, they take days off, they forget to do their tasks for the day, right? All these problems occurred. And so that's where I took a way deeper step back and started bringing in developers to say, look, I know there's technology that does this stuff. I don't know how to make it work, but I know it exists. And so that was it. And that's once we got that dialed in and got it in a way that it spoke just like I would, we were able to let go of 3 different VAs that were doing it. And the cool thing that happened was a couple things. One, obviously the big one that everyone would know is I became more profitable because I had less overhead, right? The cooler part was I now had a team of VAs, my robotic technology driven system, that never took a day off. Always sent the message when they were supposed to. Right. Perfectly timed at the right time of day, No excuses. It always happened and it always said exactly what it needed to. And so now there were no leads left behind. There was no one that we weren't following up with. And that's quite honestly, I know that's why we tripled our business and continued to grow from that point, because that one shift alone made it just like marketing. A lot of people who do really good at marketing and get leads, they know that the secret behind marketing isn't some magic list. It isn't some magic marketing trick. The magic behind marketing is consistency. Consistently being there, consistently marketing, consistently getting your message out brings people in the door, right? That's the magic. If you stop, people stop coming to you. It's just the way it works, right? Follow-up is no different. The number one thing with follow-up is being consistent with it. As soon as you start to lack, you can always see, I had a great mentor that I was taught how to run this business off of whiteboards. And the whiteboards were able to teach me how to know the cash flow cycle of the business, right? Which is highly important. And so it started with leads and marketing. If I don't have marketing on, leads ain't coming in the door. If I have marketing on, leads are coming in the door. Once leads are coming in the door, I have to follow up and touch base with them in order to get contracts. Once I have contracts, if I'm going to rehab them or sell them, I've got to do those next things, right? Well, if I stop my marketing, I know 90 days from now or sooner, depending on your total cycle of business, I'm going to have no business that month because I have no new leads. If I stop following with my leads and getting contracts, I know I'm a month or two away from a month or two that's going to be. So if you're sitting on this call and number one, you have no deals being closed, you probably just haven't followed up with any leads you generated. That'd be your number one problem. And if you're on this call and you're like, man, I keep getting a great month of 3 to 5 deals and then I have none. And then I get a couple deals and then I have none. Well, you're on this roller coaster of you're either turning on and off your marketing or you're trying to do follow-up, then you're getting too busy and you're not, right? One of those things is most likely why you're experiencing all that pain. And so if you just keep your and here's the reason you stop marketing is because you get overwhelmed on the leads because you didn't automate follow-up. And now you got leads in there with money and you got to follow up on them. So you stop marketing so you can follow up with the leads. Then you get a contract, you turn back on marketing, right? And so it's this ever happening hamster wheel that is causing you all this ups and downs. I've been there. Right. That's exactly what my business was doing until we started hiring a bunch of people. Right. But that doesn't solve the problem. It does. But then there's another problem. Now I have more people. I've got more overhead. I'm probably not making that much money, which is the whole purpose too. And so you step back and you go, well, I'm generating a whole bunch of money. But how come I'm not taking it all home? Oh, because I'm paying X, Y, Z, D, G, F, right? So once you automate that, you then get a consistent flow. So that's why, like, if I could go backwards and tell anyone just starting out, follow up. Make sure you have the follow up in place because it's going to be the number one thing that makes you get stuck in this cycle, right? You may figure out getting leads in, and then if you don't get a deal right away, you're then going to be bogged down trying to figure out how to follow up so you can spend more money on marketing. Or if you had follow up automated, you would get a deal and you could continue marketing to feed that machine. So then the machine, right, is just taking your marketing dollars and spitting out a result at the end, taking the money in marketing, spitting out at the end, taking the money in marketing, spitting it out at the end. That's what an automated follow-up machine will do for you at any level. And it allows you to scale and dump more money in. That's the beauty of it without having to hire people.
Well, and I mean, that's the best way to use your marketing budget too. You know, if you're marketing and following up with those people that have already reached out to you once, you might as well milk that for all it's worth. I mean, our response rate on our direct mails is pretty abysmal, frankly, in most situations. So when somebody does reach out, I've seen studies all over the place. I mean, it could be 7, 8 touches before somebody actually calls you back. I mean, you do have to keep in mind that follow-up is part of see it as part of your marketing and those additional touches, right?
It totally is. There's a Harvard study that says all transactions happen between the 8th and 12th touch. And at best, 80% of your competition makes a second phone call. Just think about that. And there's a whole nother metric I have. There's 30% of your competition never even calls a lead back. That's tremendous numbers, right? That's what you're competing with in this industry. And you yourself may step back and go, that's me. If you just made the automation of 8 times that you reached out automatically, even if it was that small, I would recommend forever. But if you just did just that alone, you're going to get more deals off the same marketing, because the marketing's not different. It's the people that say my marketing sucks, I'm not getting any deals. You're not following. I can almost promise you're just not following up with the leads enough. You called them. If you're not the person that didn't call back 30% of your leads, you're at least most likely the person who called them back once and they still said no. So you're like, all right, I quit. The guy that's there on the 8th, 9th, 10th, 12th, 35th, according to Google, is the guy getting the deal. And deals are happening. You know, right? You can look up any market. There are deals happening everywhere. I don't care what market you're in any market, there are deals happening. The guys and girls getting those deals are there when the person's ready. Yeah, sure, they may get lucky. It may be the first pop, but the ones that are consistently doing deals are following up at some level, way beyond a second phone call.
So how frequently do you have your automation following up with these folks? Is it every other day? Is it every day? Do you just keep beating on them until they finally call you back?
That's a great question. The answer will differ for everybody. So I'll give you my perspective, right? Because I do know people who follow 3-4 times a day, then tomorrow, the next day, the next day. To me, that's way too aggressive, right? So for me, my perspective of how we set it up and what we found best over all this time was in the beginning, when someone first contacts you, I like to probably stay in front of them like every day for a couple of days. So like maybe 2 or 3 days, I'm reaching that. Now this is like initial contact. They called, hang up. We didn't get on the phone with them, right? If we didn't get on the phone with them, probably going to follow up every day for the first 3 days. Then I'm going to wait a few days. Then I'm going to wait a few more days. Then I'm going to wait a week. Then I'm going to go every 2 weeks. And then I'm going to be every month, right? So I tier that off. And I'm more aggressive in the beginning because they were hottest when they first picked up the phone. So like there's another rule of thumb, like the moment they hit your database, you need to reply within 5 minutes. If you didn't live answer, right? If you can't live answer, you need to reply within 5 minutes. And if you can't reply in 5 minutes, that's okay if you have automation, because automation can, right? And so, but you have to reach back out within 5 minutes. Every minute past 5 minutes, the amount of likelihood that they will pick the phone back up and they didn't understand, you know it, right? We could pick up a phone and do anything instantly in our world. So if you don't reply within 5 minutes, they've already went to go find someone else or call someone else who might answer their call right now. So you may be losing deals just on that alone, right? Then if I've spoken with somebody and they're just not ready today, at that point, I don't follow up with them again tomorrow, right? At that point, I like to be somewhere between 5 and 7 days. So I think within 5, unless they told you, don't call me for months, right? And I still would call them way before, or I would automate way before that. But my automation at that point, so someone I talked to, I would start off at 5 to 7 days later, I would send them something. Even if it's just say, hey, just touching base, seeing if anything changed this week. Or, hey, by the way, it just actually freed up some more capital and we could buy another house. I don't know if you're ready yet, but just letting you know. Right. So it's non-intensive. I don't care if they reply, but if they do, they're likely ready. Right. And I'm not being pushy in any way. I'm just letting them know. Right. And then I'd wait another week before I send another message. And that's my first 2 weeks of follow up. After that, I would either go one more week and then tally it off, or I would just go right to 2 weeks later would be my next message. For me, it's 5 to 7 days, a week after that, 2 weeks after that, and then only once a month after that. And then my once a month would continue forever. Because I mean, we've gotten deals that are automated follow-up, in month 26 after they originally contacted us, we finally get a deal. So I just know the money that's there. Now that's not normal. Normal's not that long out. Normal is sometime within the next 12 months, 6 to 12 months is the average time frame when they'll do a deal with us. But imagine all those deals that people are losing because they're not messaging that person 6 months from now, 7, 8 months from now. And you can go back, like I've done this. I've gotten mad before and looked at the houses that have been in our database that sold months after we spoke with them. Like, why didn't I get that deal? What did we do wrong that we didn't get? But we weren't there. We didn't follow up. We didn't stay in front of them. If we did, we'd be top of mind and they'd be reaching back out to you to do the deal.
Right. So you mentioned before, you're doing the stealth voicemail, you're doing the texts, and I think you even mentioned mailings. Do you even have that as part of this call flow, essentially, or the follow up? It's just automated, and
Yes.
it hits a certain point, it mails something out to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for me on the mail piece, so we do texting, voicemail, and email on the cycle I just gave you is pretty good for
Oh,
all of
okay.
them, in my opinion. The mail, for me, I start kicking in a piece of mail if it's a seller. So I'm focusing just on the seller and the conversation. Buyers, I do right off the bat.
Hmm.
But for a seller, I'm gonna within 30 days. So that first 30-day window, if they haven't replied to anything else and I still haven't gotten a deal 30 days after they originally contacted me, then I like to send a piece of mail. And then I'm going to send a piece of mail probably every 4 to 6 weeks after that, in addition to all those calls, texts, and emails that are going out. And so for
Hmm.
me, especially if they came from direct mail, well, they already responded to direct mail. Now, usually your front end piece in direct mail is cheaper. Some people spend a little more, right? But most don't. Most will go for a cheaper piece so they can hit more people right on the front end.
Hmm.
On the back end, on my automation, I'm going with a higher quality piece, right? So multiple colors, glossy, thick card stock, right? So I'm going to put more money into that because I'm only sending this piece of mail to someone who already said yes once before, and
Hmm.
they're not replying to my text, they're not calling me back from my voicemail, they're not replying back to my emails. So I'm going to send them another piece of mail, but it's going to be one that totally stands out, and just is again saying this similar message. Hey, we're always freeing up some more capital, looking to buy more houses in your neighborhood. You talked to us in the past. Would love to hop back on the phone with you and see if we can do something to help you out today,
Sure.
right? And then on
No,
buyers, I
so
love to send thank you cards.
no, so this is great. You brought up a lot of stuff that realestateinvestor.com can help people with. But what in the end, like, how far do you help people with the scheduling, like how they should set up these call flows and the messaging associated with everything? I can't tell you how many times I've been asked for scripts, like, and stuff like that. People really want that type of help. How far do you go in helping people with that stuff?
Yeah, here's the super, super cool part because, again, being an actual investor and knowing how we think, right? I know that most investors won't take the time to set it up or to go watch anything or to go learn it. They'll say they want all that, but they don't want to
Mhm.
do anything,
Right.
right? Because I don't. I know that that's true for myself. So the cool
Yeah.
thing is when we built this it's everything I'm mentioning is already built in. The words you should say are there. The script now, the only thing we don't do is, we want the voicemails to be recorded in your voice since you're
Hmm.
going to talk to the seller, but we already have literally built into the dashboard, click a button and it'll tell you what to say. The script is there. Just say
Hmm.
it. Just click the record button and read what it says on the piece of paper, and boom, now you got voicemails that are all correct things to say. So when you sign up, we're already like, you're out of the box. Everything I just mentioned, other than the voicemail, it's the only thing you got to go do. All that other stuff is already programmed. It already
Hmm.
says what it needs to say to a seller. It already talks on your behalf. Sure, you can go modify it, but I can tell you from building this and having thousands of users, 10% of these people will actually go modify what we write, and the rest will let it do what it does because they'll never take the time to go modify it. They just
Hmm.
won't. So they'd rather it just work on day one, which is the way we designed our system. We just made it work. We already put in the messages. It already happens. Now, we are even at the, you want help modifying and customizing that, we have built-in support. Click a button, we can do anything that you need. We're here to help you every step of the way. I mean, we have coaching teams, we have the VAs, we have everything under realestateinvestor.com. So it doesn't matter what level you're trying to get to or what level of help you need, it's all built in and we're a click of a button away.
Sure. So, we talked about follow up and the automation associated with that, and I know I've already consumed half an hour, so I hope we can go a little longer here.
Yeah.
Um, but we already talked about the automation regarding follow up. Is there anything? What other forms of automation that your system provides that people just may not be on their radar?
Yeah, the simple things that we automate as well are going to be more internal processes. So it's going to be things that you wouldn't think take you time, but they matter when you try to scale, right?
Hmm.
And so, like, as simple as, man, I have to go on Zillow and Redfin and eAppraisal or whatever site you want to use to go look up a potential value of a property before I get
Hmm.
on the phone, right? That sounds
Doing
like,
comps.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's just normally I got to do some level of even basic comping so I know who I'm talking to, right? Or looking up
Mhm.
what the house address information is, right? So we automate that. Is that as good as the MLS and the perfect comps? No, but here's the difference in why it matters. If it takes you, and I know how long it takes, but let's just say it only takes you 5 minutes to do that. It's really
Mhm.
like 10 to 15 minutes to run a right process and do that. That sounds like no big deal before a phone call. It's a big deal when you have hundreds of those every day. It's a big
Mhm.
deal when you have 10 of those. If you just had 10 leads and it only took you five minutes to do that before you talk to each one of those 10 leads, that's an hour of your day. It sounds like nothing, but once you learn to value your time, would you have rather spent an hour looking up comps before you had a conversation and then you have to talk to all 10 of them,
Mhm.
right? Or you get to have that hour to do whatever you want in your day. Go exercise, go hang out with your family, and still do the 10 phone calls, but the numbers are right there in front of you. So we automate that. And then the next thing is as you start to scale, that's one little, right? One little thing that people would overlook the amount of time it takes them to do that one little process that could be
Mhm.
fully automated,
Right.
right? And then there's little things like as you have a team, well, how do I communicate with my team that they need to do something next, right? How do
Mhm.
I get the information to them? How do I share the data? How do I tell them the conversation I had with? So we automate all of that, right? So we automate like when you tell a system, like you put a person in the right job role, what they do for you, what you hired them for, the system will give them all that information when it's their turn,
Mhm.
automatically, instantly. You don't have to do that. Again, it sounds like, oh, that's nothing. That's doesn't save me any time. Yeah, it does. What if it took you 3 to 5 minutes on every lead that you handed off to them to go make the offer or write the contract or go look at the house or go market the deal for you? All those 3 to 5 minutes at each one of those stages, number one, add up just on one lead, let
Mhm.
alone 10 leads, let alone 100 leads, right? Same math. I might be able to save you an hour a day just on simple little processes you take for granted that you're doing that are fully automated by the system doing it for you.
Mhm.
So that's how we built it. We literally kept rebuilding our system for our own business to say, where else are we being inefficient with our time and we're wasting an hour, we're wasting an hour, we're wasting an hour, and how do we automate that so we're not wasting any time?
Right. No, one of the things I wanted to talk briefly about as well is that um, we your light version, for example, you mentioned it was like $99 a month or something like that. And there's obviously other tiers associated with that, but are there additional fees outside of that, like the because I know some what you're essentially saying, realestateinvesting.com is a very advanced CRM with a lot of marketing and follow up, and I mean that's behind it. I've seen some of the other platforms have some additional you have to fund some of those text follow-ups and dials and few of those other things. I just want to make sure that we're transparent regarding any additional fees that might be associated with this.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's so true. And it's where people don't compare apples for apples. So, again, just coming from knowing what's needed at every level, our light version comes with so much of everything that it does included in the price.
Mm-hmm.
So, could you go over those and then have a per text or per email charge? Yes. But I can tell you that the amount of leads that you would have to have in there to ever go over the limits that are designed with the light would mean that you likely need to upgrade to the next version anyways, and then there are way bigger limits included in that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there our packages are designed where 90% of investors that have that level, that's all they're going to pay. Like that, they're not going to ever pay for anything more than that outside of their marketing, right? You got to go do
Right.
marketing, whatever your marketing is. If you're going to do cold calling or texting or whatever marketing you're doing, you'll spend money on marketing. But this tool, all of its follow-ups and the things that it does, you should never go over. And if you're going over, then you have a big enough business that means you should be upgrading to the next version. And again, you won't go over that one until you're ready to upgrade to the next version, which
Mm-hmm.
the highest level of our versions with our team built in, there is no limits on what you can do. But that's, again, it's built that way on purpose. We want to cater to every level and what's needed at that level. So everything that you need at your level is included in our monthly price.
Sure.
And we display, by the way, for transparency, we display all those numbers right on our website. If you went over, here's what it would cost. Here's how many, I think you get like 5,000 text messages included. And mind you, this is not marketing blasting text messages. This is following up with leads that you're working deals on that have already said or replied to whatever marketing you have. So it's 5,000 is a lot, right? Thousands of minutes on the phone is a lot.
Sure.
And it's all included on our website.
How about if somebody was coming from another platform? Is it easy to make the switch?
Yeah, and our team will actually help you in making the switch. It's really simple though. Depending on what platform you're at, most likely the switch is this simple. You have to export, we have to get the data out of your current platform. And then we literally click a button to import it into our platform. Sure. And we can help you do that. So you don't even have to know how to do that. If you don't, we'll work with you and our team will do it for you.
So now I'm going to nerd out on you a little bit. So, this is especially interesting for a lot of people because real estate investing is a kind of a part-time or a side hustle. And, you're trying to make the most use of that limited amount of time, especially in this situation. And what I've definitely have learned, if you get a good CRM and some of these tools that you're talking about behind you, it's like having somebody there helping you out. I mean, just to keep up with all of this stuff, what you really truly need to do. One of the things that I thought was really interesting is when I was talking to Gary is some of the other integrations that you have already available too, including, as far as I understand, you can even initiate some of your marketing out of your CRM. Is that right?
Oh yeah, totally. You can like load your lists right in the dashboard. We can send out mail on your behalf with our list management software. You can cold call and text people right from the platform. So you don't have to go get other tools to do that. Now, there is a point that you will get to where if you're doing, if you're a bigger company, you're doing thousands of those at once, there are better tools for that solution. But if you're just getting started, you don't need a bunch of tools to go do marketing. Our system will do all of it and support the more entry level marketing needs of a smaller investor. Now, mail could be any level, right? Because that's simple. You literally click a button in our dashboard, it'll send out all your mail for you.
Yeah, no, this is what I'm trying to get at is that I know, especially as newer investors, as they're getting into this, when somebody throws out $100 a month for a CRM, that's always it's always a little surprising. $100 a month seems like a lot, especially when you're starting out. Yeah. But that's when I start to question that they're obviously not placing the necessary value on their time, their personal time. And what's it worth to you to spend that extra couple hours a night and your weekends with your family when you can have something like this, do some of this automation on your behalf, and kind of find those diamonds in all of the coal that you're going to be sifting through.
Totally. And it is someone's going to do it. The challenge is, and it's why, how did I start out as a burnt out investor and losing my life around me? And maybe you are too, because I was trying to do all that. That's insane. Looking back now, I can literally say that's insane. Like, it's just insane. I could spend a couple dollars a day and all that automatically happens for me. Why would, to your point, I would much rather, and I can tell you today, I'm going to go play with my son. We're going to go outside and run around. Like that's just what's going to happen. I'm not going to waste my time doing all that stuff. Not for a couple dollars a day. That's just nuts. That would mean, to your point, I don't value any of my time. If literally I can't say $3 a day is not worth the hours that I will save today, that's ridiculous. You have no value or you have no respect for yourself at that point, right? You're literally saying, I don't care about my time, my family, or anything else. Now, mind you, you might be saying that because you just didn't know that was available to you and that could be done. Because that's where I was. I just didn't know. Right? I didn't know what I didn't know back then. And so I thought I had to work like a workhorse, right? I grew up in the hustle harder mentality. Well, I have a machine that does all the hustling for me. So I don't have to hustle harder. I can hustle smarter.
Yeah. Well, no, we've had other conversations where I think the quote unquote hustle or the grind has become romanticized in a way. And just because you're busy doesn't mean, don't equate busy to success.
Yep. Don't I heard another said another way. I've heard don't equate being busyness with production. It doesn't
Right.
mean you're producing anything. Just
Exactly.
busy.
No. I just really appreciate you taking the time to chatting with us here today. And again, I'm just going to remind everybody, if you're interested in what what Robert is talking about here, make sure you head over to realestateinvestor.com. I mean, check out the light package at least. I mean, you value any of your time. I mean, this is a well worthwhile investment to just consider it. Um, is there anything else you wanted to add there? Otherwise, we're going to wrap up with a few highlights that I pulled from our chat here today.
Nice. Only thing I will add, and it's the thing that I just love telling people, man, if you are not doing deals right now, I can promise you the only limiting factor you had, and I had over a decade of doing this, is you still think there's something more you have to learn. You think there's some new tool or sexy thing that you're missing that's making people successful. Let me promise you, from a guy that spent over a decade studying and learning and thinking all that crap, that the moment you take action and do something, call somebody, make an offer, whatever it is that's holding you back, it is nothing more than you being afraid of taking that action. Face your fear, take that action. Everything you want is right on the other side of you facing that fear and becoming uncomfortable. And it's okay. You will suck at first. We suck at everything we start out doing, and you will get better as you continue to do that. And so just, if nothing else you leave here with, go do that, because that's better than doing nothing. And it's better than trying to learn or find the next thing. You won't get the right thing until you start doing things, right? And
Mm-hmm.
which is not studying. And then don't take that to mean I don't say don't study. I'm just saying apply what you're studying. Go do something. Go make a phone call. Go try out the script you just got. You don't need a script. You can just pick up the phone and say, hey, I think I want to buy a house in your neighborhood. Would you consider selling? There's your
Mm-hmm.
script. Go do it is the difference. And you will
Yep.
find your script by doing that.
Yep. No, I can't agree more. And that's so well said. I can't tell you, like, one of the best scripts that I've ever stumbled into was cold calling people and just saying, being completely honest and saying, I know this is completely out of the blue,
Mm.
but by any chance, are you thinking about selling a house? you know, and just being that transparent, you'd be surprised at the response.
Yeah.
Um, so we spent a ton of time talking about automation and the benefit of automation. But some of the things that I thought were really telling is uh, what you were talking about, follow up. And we got to see that as part of our marketing. And you threw out statistics, it can take 8 to 12 times touches for somebody to respond. I really like how you laid out how you space some of these touches and contacting them back. Some great information there. That was really insightful. I think you said 80% of the competition won't make it to the third call. Is that, or the third follow up? Is that right?
Yep.
That's insane. That just blows my mind. And 30% doesn't even make that first call back.
Nuts.
Nuts.
That's a Harvard
Nuts.
study on, that's just sales in general, across the world, sales people in general, trying to do anything of that level or at those percentages. So it could be even worse.
So, and now you're going to make me change some of my automation because you said you have automation reach back out within 5 minutes. Right now, my automation reaches back out like that following day. And if I don't call them back, that 5 minute window is typically me trying to physically return the phone call. And more times than not, it's usually later in the day, or I need to have something
Yeah,
respond
that was
like right
the
away.
that was the That was the first thing that we built, was tracking and realizing that our salespeople were taking way too many hours to get back to a lot of our marketing. So the first thing we built was the ability to not send an instant message that looked like a computer, because I was all about how do we make this like a human. But within minutes, we wanted at least a text message and a phone call, voicemail to go out, so that it bought us time. And it literally made it look like, hey, I just tried you. I'd love to get you on the phone to find out more about your property so I could see if we can make an offer or a fit. You can call me back at this number, or I'll try you again later today. So now I just bought myself time.
Right. And then I really like the frequency regarding the actual paper mail. I have to, I had somebody on the show recently who focuses a lot on radio advertising. And he really brought to the forefront that a lot of the people that we're dealing with and talking to, those traditional methods are really probably something we should consider as more of a go-to than we do today. We rely so heavily on technology to do this automation, whether it's returning phone calls or sending texts, but that actual piece of paper, I can't tell you how many times I thought a deal was going to fall apart, but it was the sheer fact of me mailing them a written offer with a self-directed stamped envelope or returning it back to me, that it finished the deal. You know, it's that physical thing that seems to really have a big impact.
Totally.
Well, I really appreciate your time again. This has been awesome, and I appreciate you letting me pick your brain. You can tell I was getting a bit selfish on some of my questions here.
Yeah, it's all good. This is a topic I could talk about forever, Jack. So I appreciate you having me on and letting me put that information out there.
Yeah, and I really hope that we can do this again sometime soon.
Most definitely.